I have often said that Donald Trump is going to leave the Republican Party in shambles as he abuses his power and alienates everything he touches to serve his needs and agenda while masquerading as the GOP leader. And Newsweek is supporting that theory with a report that reveals how he's turning a red state blue, and Republicans who are thinking about midterms and life after Trump are hitting the panic button. I have that and much, much more in something I call
Occupy Democrats Weave.
Coming up next. This episode is all about alienation, so let's begin with a just-published Fox News piece on how Trump just torpedoed his relationship with an important voting bloc that helped deliver the White House as we build towards our featured story about the orange man giving the red teammate a terrible case of the blues.
But it feels at this moment like the GOP is getting really, really cocky. Not Jesse's red wave cocky from a few years ago that turned into a ripple, a whimper, whatever it was, but just slinging arrows. We've got it all handled. We know exactly how to do this. We've got Trump. He's our magic weapon, and he's teaching everyone how to do this right. Well, one of the reasons that Trump won, a major reason, right, was the Manosphere, that Joe Rogan and Andrew Schultz loved him. Andrew Schultz this week, I voted for none of this. Trump is doing the exact opposite of everything I voted for. Joe Rogan, what's the deal with ICE going around picking up nice people who've lived here for decades who have committed no crimes? Joe Rogan, where are the Epstein files? I thought that they were important. Our approval rating is bad, 19%, terrible. GOP at 33%. Not fantastic, but obviously better. We can improve. I would never deny that. But important things that will matter for this midterms. The big, beautiful bill, 60% disapproval. 64% of Americans say that the GOP looks out for the interests of the rich, not the average American, the rich. Trump has a 62% disapproval on handling health care, probably because he's never even put forward any sort of solution. It will likely be the number one or the number two issue going in, especially because they're going to take health care away from millions of people. Focus on those kinds of things, make a better social media video, but the Manosphere turning against them.
And let's not leave out one more male who previously worshipped Trump. Nick Fuentes is an extremist MAGA influencer who I would not normally feature, but his outburst after feeling the alienation burn from Trump is too good not to share.
And now he says, if you're not on board with the Epstein cover-up, oh, I don't want your support. You're a weakling. You suck. You are fat. You are a joke. You are stupid. You are not funny. You are not as smart as you think you are. You are, and honestly, and if you watch my show, I've been very critical. I've never been this far. This just goes to show this entire thing has been a scam. When we look back on the history of populism in America, we are going to look back on the MAGA movement as the biggest scam in American history. And the liberals were right. The MAGA supporters were had. They were.
And now for our featured story about Trump's alienation nation. Perhaps nothing symbolizes Trump's dramatic election win like the heartland state of Iowa. They rallied behind Trump while he talked about invaders eating cats and dogs and ending a certain war on day one. But that red tide has turned, as reported by Newsweek in an article and video titled, "Donald Trump Risks Turning Iowa into a Swing State. People Are Pissed Off."
Donald Trump's once solid grip on Iowa may be loosening, as voters voice concerns over his policies on healthcare, renewable energy, and agriculture, signaling the first-in-the-nation presidential nominating state could again become a battleground. For nearly a decade, Iowa has leaned Republican. Trump carried it by 9 points in 2016, 8 points in 2020, and about the same in 2024. Iowans understand that President Donald Trump is the most consequential president of our lifetimes, wrote Joe Mitchell, a former Republican state lawmaker in the Des Moines Register. We would vote for him 3 more times if we could. But national polls and local sentiment suggest his margin of support is narrowing. Democrats and independents argue that key parts of Trump's agenda, from cutting Medicaid to promoting cane sugar over corn syrup, are alienating voters in this farm-heavy state. Ben Knuckles, a Democratic strategist, told Newsweek that Trump and his allies are gutting healthcare, decimating Iowa's rural hospitals, cutting food assistance, exploding the federal deficit, and raising costs, all to give massive tax giveaways to their billionaire coastal donors. He cited an analysis from the Kaiser Family Foundation showing that Iowa's rural hospitals, which make up nearly 68% of the state's community hospitals, stand to lose $4.45 billion in Medicaid funding under Trump's policies. Republicans talk about rural values, then cut the clinics and hospitals rural families depend on, Knuckles said. Iowa hasn't been considered a swing state in years, but that could be changing, according to Julie Stock, an Iowa Democrat and former gubernatorial candidate. People on the ground here are definitely very angry about a wide variety of things Republicans are doing, she told Newsweek. They're allowing themselves to be intimidated by a bully, but voters feel the impact of those decisions. She hears daily concerns about Medicaid cuts, clean water problems, and declining support for public schools. Trump's push for Coca-Cola and other companies to replace corn syrup with imported cane sugar has sparked particular outrage in Iowa, where corn is a cornerstone of the economy. Farmers fear the move not only undercuts one of their key markets, but also shifts economic benefits to Florida, the nation's top cane sugar producer, at Iowa's expense.
I've already talked to some farmers who are very worried about the effect of tariffs and the trade war with China. What we see is that China in the past has bought a lot of farm products from Iowa. Now China is seeking out other trading partners besides Iowa and besides the United States, like Brazil, for example. And once those trade relationships have been severed with Iowa and the U.S. and forged with other countries, they're going to be very hard to get back. People here were already struggling to get by.
Donald Trump's political rise was fueled by blue-collar and agricultural states who believed they had found their champion. They were enthused by catchphrases like drain the swamp and build the wall, but now, a decade later, it's becoming painfully clear they were played. States like Iowa handed Trump massive victories, and now they will pay with gut punches of Medicaid cuts, school defunding, and economic sabotage. Trump sold himself as the anti-establishment voice of forgotten Americans, but the only voice he ever spoke with was his own. And his weird pressure on Coke for cane sugar is just the latest betrayal, a slap in the face to the very farmers who carried him. And it's not just farmers he's damaging. All Iowans who are served by rural hospitals will suffer as billions cut while Trump's wealthy friends enjoy tax windfalls. The tragedy here didn't begin with policy, it began with the con. Donald Trump exploited the trust of middle America to seize power, then he started the engine on his own self-serving wrecking ball. Now, as a one-term president, he no longer needs to pretend he's their savior. Iowa, the men of MAGA, and the other loyalists are now waking up to the truth. Trump didn't drain the swamp, he brought it to their backyards. I'm Dan, thanks for watching. Please leave your comments below, and let's continue to occupy democracy together.
I hate Occupy Democrats.